If you're looking to get a fat tire e-bike, I feel like both of these e-bikes would make a great choice for you. But in this video, I want to do a little bit more of a deep dive to compare the Aventon Aventure 2 e-bike to the Yotobike Leopard Pro e-bike to see which one might be better suited for you. I've done full reviews on both of these products that I'll put links to them in the description below, and I'll also put links to the products as well if you end up wanting to purchase one of them. So let's get into it. So as I initially stated, both of these are fat tire e-bikes, but the difference between them is this is a 4-inch fat tire and this is a 4.8-inch fat tire. And that little bit of difference actually is kind of noticeable when you actually ride these e-bikes. This one definitely feels a lot larger in the tire size, but then not only that, in the whole bike in general just feels like a larger bike. And I got the Aventon Aventure 2 in a large size. You can choose between regular or large. I got this in a large size, but yet this still feels surprisingly much bigger than this. So if you're a larger person, if you're a beefier guy, then this might be a better fit for you, especially if you want to use this going hunting or taking this in your trails. I feel like this accommodates larger riders. Now, since this is a larger e-bike, it also is heavier than the Aventon one. So this one feels easier to manage if you're not riding it. And even when you're actually riding it, this one feels more nimble, more easy to turn, more easy to kind of take commuting with you, versus this one is just a little bit beefier. It doesn't have the same maneuverability as the Aventure 2. When it comes to the handlebar setup, they're very similar. The screen displays look very nice between both products, but I do like Aventon's screen a little bit better just because it shows the battery life in an actual percentage, like 86% battery life. I really like that it shows an actual number versus this one just shows a little bar indicator. So you have a clear understanding how much battery life you have when you're riding the Aventon. So I like that a little bit better, but it's a very minute detail. Also, another difference between them is when you're riding this one, the handlebars feel like it sets you forward a little more. So you're almost leaning forward in a more athletic mountain bike position, versus the Aventon sits a little bit more comfortably. This isn't a swept back handlebar though, so this isn't as comfortable as some other bikes. Both of them are just the straight handlebars, so they're similar, but this one just puts you slightly in a more forward posture when you're riding. So that is the difference between the handlebar setup. Both of these e-bikes have hydraulic brakes, which work really great between both of these e-bikes. They stop the e-bike safely, abruptly, smoothly. I really like both of them when it comes to braking. And then they also have a nice headlight on them. You can see that the Yotobike one is a little bit larger than Aventon, but I personally like Aventon's setup better because they also integrate rear lights into the e-bike that glow brighter when you squeeze the brakes. And they also have rear blinkers back here as well to signal to traffic which way you're turning, versus the Yotobike doesn't have any rear lights in this. It only has this little battery powered one that you just turn on or off with a battery button that sits under your seat post. So this just isn't as nice as the Aventon, but if you don't ride at nighttime or rely on lights, then it probably won't matter to you as much. But I do like Aventon's light setup better. Something else I want to point out with the Aventure 2 e-bike, this rear little basket here, the seat, and the mirror are all different accessories that I personally added to the bike. They don't actually come with those three things when you purchase it. The seat is still very comfortable, the original one, but I just swapped it out because I was given this one, and this one's larger and just feels better for most people, so I swapped it out. But the original one it came with is still pretty decent. Both of these e-bikes also come with nice fenders on them and rear racks, so if you need to haul anything, you should be good to go with that. When it comes to the riding experience, both of these e-bikes have torque sensors, which make for a really smooth ride. As you pedal harder, the e-bikes go faster, and as you pedal softer, the e-bikes slow down as well. So they adapt to how you're pedaling, but for whatever reason, I feel like Aventon's torque sensor is a little bit more dialed in. It feels a little bit more responsive and smooth when you're going from slow speeds to fast speeds back to slow speeds. It just feels very natural to ride this bike, and a lot of people find this to be very comfortable. But for this one, for whatever reason, it just isn't as responsive. Still does the adapting to how hard you're pedaling and how soft you're pedaling, but it just doesn't feel as smooth as this. So it's still good. I don't want you to think that this is a bad riding experience, but I just know that this is a better one in my opinion. I also like that this e-bike has an 8-speed trigger shifter, which makes it easier shifting through gears, versus this one has a 7-speed thumb shifter, so it just doesn't feel quite as nice to shift through the gears versus this one. So this e-bike is definitely smoother when you're pedaling it, but I feel like this e-bike is more comfortable when you're going over rough terrain. So this is a full suspension e-bike. It has front forks right here, and then it also has this rear suspension right here under the seat post, and the seat's pretty comfortable, and it has larger fat tires. So a combination of all those things really smooth out the ride on this thing when you're going over bumps, if you're taking this through a trail to go hunting, if you're driving over pine cones and just grass, this will be a more comfortable ride than this one. This is still pretty smooth, but again, this is just better. It's more comfortable of a ride. Also, with the Yotobike Leopard Pro, it advertises that it will get you a longer range than the Aventon one. This one gets you up to 60 miles on one charge, where this one gets you 70 to 80 miles on one charge. I felt like both of these motors were very comparable. I never struggled going up any hills or riding on rough terrain, but I did notice that I felt like the Aventure 2 e-bike has a little bit more gradual of an acceleration versus the Yotobike was a little bit more aggressive in the initial takeoff. But both of these e-bikes have great power. They both get you up to 28 miles an hour. They felt fine when you actually take them out and put them to the max. I felt like both of them held up great. When it comes to my overall thoughts between these two fat tire e-bikes, I feel like the Yotobike is a little bit better suited for larger people, and this makes for a more comfortable ride. It does put you in a little bit more athletic of a stance when you ride it, but if you have rougher terrain and you're a bigger person, I feel like this would probably be a little bit better suited for you. It just seemed to handle my trails a little bit easier since it's a full suspension e-bike, but it is a little bit larger, so if you're smaller, it might be a little bit harder for you to manage. Versus this e-bike, I feel like would make a great commuter style e-bike that does also offer you some versatility with the fatter tires if you're going off-roading, and it just makes for a little bit smoother of a ride. I feel like this is the better one if you actually want to pedal and go for leisurely rides. I honestly feel like they're both great products. Me personally, since I'm a smaller person, I tend to gravitate towards this e-bike just because it's easier for me to pedal, it's smoother. I like to just drive on gravel roads. I don't really go hunting or things like that. So this is the e-bike I gravitate towards, but I also think this is a really comfortable ride. So those are my thoughts. Hopefully this video is helpful, and have a good day. Bye-bye.